Hey, welcome to the Fine Print, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Caleb Teskey, and I'm coming back today with my first interview in I think over a year here. I'm super excited today. I do want to do the usual homework off the top here. The last show I did, a lot of you guys watch this, was the little story about the Forbins and what happened with them in the CCB, and I read through the whole document and that list of shit. It's an unfortunate story to be reading. You know, Kate Corbett from Yellowbird, my man Michael Thomason from Infused Productions down in Massachusetts, Luke Williams from Owerta Genetics, you know, and that was like a year. So I'm super excited. I'm going to be firing up the podcast here again and focusing mainly on Vermont. And today, guys, I got someone that I'm super excited to be talking to. And let me see. I just want to say what I got coming up too, because coming up, I got Gaston on Monday. I'm going to go meet with Ebo tomorrow, and we're going to have a Gaston interview on Monday. Then my man Drew Greco from out in Nevada is going to join us and talk about like large scale farming out there on Thursday. And then I got Keegan Steyer on the 22nd from Sugar House Solventless, and then North Node Gardens on the 25th. So really good lineup of folks here, and I'm going to be really dialing it in on Vermont. And today, guys, my guest is no different. It's he's the owner of Verdiggity Organics in Manchester, Vermont. There's the logo, and please welcome to the show, Jordan Keagy. Jordan, thank you for being here, man.
Thank you for having me, brother. We've been talking about this for quite a few years now, man.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And I do want to ask you if you'll give us a 5-minute life story right after the short video. Did you freeze? Can you still hear me?
No, I'm here right now.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So I guess to get down to it, man, I've been kind of doing this the majority of my life into my teenage years, man. My first plants were 23, 24 years ago up on Barneville Road, right in Manchester. I'm a Vermont native too, man. I was born in the area. As anybody knows, back then, like, it was a little bit more of a stigma around stuff in small towns in Vermont, man. Once you kind of get on their radar, it's not the greatest thing in small communities like that. So I ended up getting kind of going through the ups and downs and local stuff, moving over to New York for a while, man. I've I think the longest job I had in my life that wasn't doing this was 11 months when I was 21 years old, along with other illicit substances along the way. Certain ones that you benefit from, other ones not so much. That being said, I worked in Maine, kind of teamed up with some people up there, working a few grows up there. That was almost 10 years ago. Kind of did like the Cali broker thing from the West Coast to the East Coast for a while, man. Some stuff I can't quite talk about just because there's open stuff going on with some of my friends. But either way, that being said, man, once Vermont was opening up, dude, I was super excited, man. I was looking at either going into the New York market or back here, and this is home, man. So to come back here into the area and kind of start our cultivation out here was kind of an interesting dream come true, because it's like kind of coming back to the same stomping grounds that I was at when I was like in my like late teens, early 20s, man. So kind of as that progressed, I mean, we've been watching the Vermont market evolve in a way that's kind of interesting. We'll touch on that a little bit later, but yeah, I think that's probably the majority of my life story as I could think of what I'm opening up to talk. You can open up the dialogue a little bit more, bro.
Later. Hang on. I'm going to put you over here in the big box now.
Yeah.
And Jordan, you know I love talking to the legacy guys.
Yeah.
And what I really want to ask you is why you decided to get into the legal market. But what I'd like to ask you before that is, would you tell us about life before the legal market, what it looked like for you, and then tell us maybe what made you decide to get into trying to pursue a license?
Well, to be honest with you, man, just with the height of COVID, everything was amazing. You know what I mean? It was the type, not to go like into too many details, but there was an abundance of cash. There was lack of people were not crashing down because cannabis kind of lost its stigma. The police kind of stopped treating it like a class 1 substance and all this. So it's like that was, and before that was like kind of like the thriving years, dude. And then as the market started to drop off, like I don't know if anybody like I don't know people are listening. Most of the market's full of fucking half-assed motherfuckers, anyways. But like as like you're watching wholesale prices drop across the country, dude. You know, what I mean, you'd like buy in wholesale, and you'd usually hold on to watch the market, like to watch the numbers drop. So like you've hit the first depth season, second depth season, you buy hard, and the market's seeing like the ebb and flows of the market. And as usually like it would drop like standard year it raised like 3 points. So you buy in bulk, and then usually those numbers go up. And instead, for years, we were just watching those numbers drop off and drop off. So it's kind of one of those like, oh shit, what do I do now? This is what I've been doing my whole life. Um, and I sold out to the legal market, and here I am. Not a dream come true to sell weed legally. You know what I mean? I'd look at it the exact opposite. We're doing twice as much work. You know what I mean? For half of the rewards.
What,
So
do you mind digging into that? I mean, I was gonna save that for later, but I mean, I think that's
yeah,
a very interesting comment you make there, Jordan.
yeah. I mean, right off. I mean, anybody knows when you're playing with the government, anyways. You're paying all the state, federal taxes, jumping through the hoops. I mean, Vermont was nice, dude. They've not overly burdensome with the reporting, so it's not like you've got to have like a whole person just to do that stuff. Um, the barriers to entry in Vermont were super easy, you know. And but once again, once you've got the government in your life, dude, like we're seeing with everything else, man, they want their money, dude. And the only reason why we're here is so they can make the money that was our money. Like this was ours. Every dollar I made was mine. Every dollar anybody else made was theirs. And then once you get the government involved, they want that 21% off the top, and then your state federal taxes, and then 1080 and all that fun shit. And it just, I don't know, man. For me, it kind of, I mean, it's all right. You know, it feels better because you're not like, I mean, I picked up 2 different Fed cases over the years. So like, it's one of those, like, it's nice to not have to worry about that. But like, when the mark right now it makes sense. Like, what's that going to look like 4 years from now when everybody's begging for direct sales and open the market and saturate the fucking retail spots? And you know what I mean? Like, what does it look like then? I don't know, man. I'm just kind of here for the ride and chose to do it here until I'm not.
And what a ride it is here.
Yeah.
And I do want to here. Let me shamelessly just. I think I have your logo somewhere. It's Jordan Keagy, guys, from Verdiggity Organics here. And you know, like I said, I don't like to just openly trash the government or the CCB for anything because I don't think that's productive. But you know, I do think, you know, prior to this, and I've sold a little weed in my day, and we used to just take the weed and we would put it in a bag and take the money, and it was a very simple transaction. And now comes all of this red tape and these regulations in between that transaction that seem to make it. You know, and I'm not saying this about Vermont because I think Vermont is maybe the best example of the regulated market.
100% agree.
It does make it cost prohibitive, and all the packaging and everything in between getting your flower to the customer seems like it does. You know, nickels and dimes, my man. Is that accurate?
Oh, it is, man. But like you said, man, Vermont is probably the best. And so, like like everybody I worked with that moved out to Cali 23, 25 years ago, dude, they're not out there still doing that, man. There's no money out there, man. They're broke. They lost their farms. It burnt down. The feds raided this, and they were hitting up and like people just abandoned, were walking away from their farms, man. And then when I was up in Maine, dude, the market started. I mean, out of the 3 dudes I worked with up there, only one of them's operational. He's got his own, he's vertically integrated with his own dispensary. So like, there's only so much that you can do within the regulations. I mean, personally, I think it should be completely legalized or nothing, man. This middle ground is okay, and Vermont did a great job. The CCB did a great job, as I see it, making the barriers to entry easy. Anybody with $1,000 and a little bit of time could get a license. That's great.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
Yeah, almost too easy, because then you see the same people complain on these CCB meetings because they can't sell their shit outdoor for $2,000 a pound. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. You think it deserves that, but obviously you don't know the market. You know what I mean? It's just fair too, you know.
Cool. And let's circle back to this, huh? Because that was supposed to be for the end, but I'm glad you got into it now. But I want to ask you, so you decide to enter the legal market here in Vermont. And I know you've got a few businesses. What's the first business you decide to pursue?
Well, it was the cultivation. I think we were the second wave of licenses. Then I got held up some town regulations. But it was the original cultivation, and I'm just lucky I didn't have more access to funds. I'm a maxed out tier one with, was it 61 lights? You know what I mean? So it's just enough to maintain through economies of scale. Like you're never going to be able to compete through economies of scale with a big farm. It's just impossible. But if you like,
What?
if you have a setup where one person can run 61 lights and then have a couple trimmers, like that makes sense. I mean? You can still compete at a decent price as long because you're owning your product for the right price. So that's where we kind of got in with the maxed out tier one, literally 996 square feet. I could add one more light. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you add extra regulations, extra security, all this others, like different SOPs. Not that it's overly burdensome, but it's just one of those like whatever. So I got in with that. Then we added the manufacturing, and then I have not seen anybody with good flower not make it in the Vermont market. That being said, dude, I literally just maxed out some credit cards and ran my whole facility right before all the outdoor came out. Was that like a year and a half ago? And then that's how I opened up the retail store, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you went with the grow first, and I'm gonna work
yeah,
towards the store. Will you tell us a
yeah,
little bit about your grow? Because one of the particular flowers I remember was that cap junkie, and I'd really love to. And I saw Mammoth Lighting shouting you out on their page.
yeah.
Maybe you could tell us about like the medium that you use for growing, some of the lighting, and how you feed your plants and shit like that. I'd love
Yeah.
to hear about that, Jordan.
Absolutely. So we're in beds to begin with. It was not a no-till, partial till because we put in the dry amendments over the top and a lot of compost teas. Basically working on the bacteria, fungi to kind of break down the dry amendments. Uh, what am I thinking of? What was the other part of the question of that?
I just want to know about
Yeah.
your soil because I
Okay.
know
Yeah.
a lot of
So
the
we we
indoor
mi-
that I've
we
seen kind
yeah,
of no, I don't know. It looks really nice, tastes
yeah,
kind of like nothing, and I've seen people use a Hydra, Rockwool,
yeah.
living soil. I'm just curious what you're doing over there.
So I do that. I do 100% with the organics. It's kind of like the ethos. That's how I eat. That's how I smoke. Um, I mean, we've got enough literature to show us that, like any. So that anecdotally, people say like, "Oh, the organic smoke better," and then the salt growers will say that's not. There's no literature based in that because the plant can't tell the difference between the synthesized salt and either you're making it break down quicker or not based upon its bioavailability. Um, but we do know that organics have a higher nutrient density in all organic food that we taste that we eat. Like you think of that strawberry when you're younger and you go out and it's like a naturally or like wild strawberry, you bite it and it was juicy and it drips and it's got that flavor. And then you go in there and you have some of this stuff, the hydroponically grown stuff, and you taste it from the store and it's just shit, dude. So that's how I look at a lot of the salt growers, dude. I'm not saying there isn't some good stuff, but I don't know, man. I'm biased in my decision, dude. I eat a certain way, I drink a certain way, and I'm sure as fuck not going to smoke something that I don't think is. If I've got enough flour around me, I've always had it enough. Like I'm not going to smoke it unless I think it's great, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
respect.
yeah,
I'm with you on that. Will you tell us about the lights a little bit? Because, I thought it was cool to see Mammoth Lighting posting your grow, and I'd love to
yeah.
hear. I know some people are still running the old high pressure sodium lights, and I don't know
Yeah.
if you have any experience with that, but I'd love to
Oh,
hear about
absolutely,
your
man.
lighting
Yeah.
selection. Yeah.
I used to run the HPSs, then I switched to the Gavitas when they first came out. Then I switched to the Model H's, and then seeing the different spectrums tuning through Mammoth kind of was the sale point. It's got an enhanced green to balance off the far red to kind of control that internodal spacing, um, which most of the other lights of like the newer LEDs don't. That being said, they're basically trying to replicate the spectrum of an HPS, which is interesting. Once again, I mean, a watt puts off the same amount of heat no matter where it's coming from. So, um, yeah, man. I mean, I think their lights are great, dude. I decided to do my whole facility with them. Great customer service, dude. The owner's fucking awesome, dude. You know what I mean? I would support him just for him either way, dude. But his lights just happen to be great, anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
And hey, I don't like to just shamelessly plug other companies, but
yeah,
I did see that they reposted something from you on their
yeah,
Instagram page. I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, man. Then, like genetic wise, we do a bunch of the we do some in-house breeding as well, and then we've got a little collab going on with Capulator. I've been part of his like bean basement for fucking like 5 years, and then he sends me some exclusive stuff to run, dude, which is like that you said the cap junkie thing. So I remember when that drop happened between Capulator and Seed Junkie. God, I think it was like 6 7 years ago. And I saw that, dude. Those are two of the best breeders in the market, dude. And I was like, okay, I need all of those.
Yeah. Well, that
And
was,
then
I
within
mean,
like six,
genetics.
yeah.
Sorry, genetics was my
Yeah.
next question. So, dude,
Oh,
please
absolutely, man. I
just
mean, it's
riff on that
genetics,
for a
genetics,
minute,
genetics,
please.
dude. You know what I mean? That's half the game. Environment, genetics, you know what I mean? Everything is after that, dude. So if you're not running the right genetics, dude, and you're not hitting the numbers you need, like you're either growing the wrong stuff or you're hunting down the wrong direction. You don't know what you're shooting for.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
What kind of
But
numbers, when you say the numbers you're looking for, what numbers are you looking for in your grow, Jordan?
so we're averaging 2.2 pounds per light. I'm shooting for closer to three. You know, I'm just to be commercially viable. If you're getting anything under that, people are going to really feel the pain when start numbers start coming down a little bit. To be viable, you need to be between that 2 to 3 pounds per light. Um, Otherwise, your overhead's going to be too much.
Do you ever feel like that pressure sort of leads people to breeding genetics that they might not otherwise, or stuff like that might finish later that takes a little more time? Do you ever feel like that pressure makes it weird for growers and breeders?
Um, well, I think not necessarily that pressure. I mean, some of it, you know, because there's some like awesome hazes and shit that run like 16 weeks. You know what I mean? I personally let stuff finish. I let stuff go 2 to 3 weeks later than just about anybody else. You know what I mean? Just with the same genetics, and I know they've got similar cuts. You know what I mean? But at the same time, if you it's finding the balance on everything. You know what I mean? So if you're like staging your rooms and you're like, okay, I'm gonna chalk it up to this room because I'm gonna put a bunch of these later flowering ones together. You know what I mean? And then chalk it up for those extra 3 weeks. I mean, for us, it's about a week without plants in the room costs $7,500. That's what I'm losing every week that I don't
Mm,
have plants in a room. You know what I mean? So like when you're looking at those numbers,
mm.
it's hard to do. But at the same time, man, like to have certain stuff running, like can I afford to run that all the time? No, but every now and then. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Like you said,
Yeah.
I think there's a balance there. And
Yeah.
maybe it's like it might take a little longer to finish. Maybe I could get a little more money for it. Or maybe it'd be
But it
unique in a way that drew new customers to my business or something like that.
but not even that, dude. At the end of the day, dude, the consumer has to smoke it. They need to want it if they like it. You know what I mean? So like I hear people wanting to pull early, but what does it mean? Like that's why I don't sell people's branding at my store, dude. I get their flower, I sell it in bulk. I don't have potencies on the jars. I want people to buy weed the way that we've always bought weed, by looking at it, smelling it, opening up the jar, looking at it with the lights overhead, and then be like, okay, I like these terps. I don't like these terps. It's got the aesthetics. It's loose. It's this, that. You know, like so they can critique it, and then they go home and usually they like it. Then you know, what I mean, if you've got
Uh-huh.
a jar, like I don't respect branding. You know, what I mean, I think it fucking like there's so many people that get their brand on early, and then they run the commercial type bullshit, and then there's just another salt factory pushing it out because they got early branding, and then you see them switching over to machine trimmed and shit, and then they're still trying to get premiums. Like, okay, dude, like you can do that at your store, but I put my eyes on everything that comes in here, everything, dude. So like it can either sell itself or not. You know what I mean?
Are you saying that sometimes put people put inferior products behind a bunch of flashy marketing?
Oh, absolutely, dude. And those little jars and the pre rolls and all that crap, dude. Like, yeah, I don't know, dude. You,
Hmm.
it's the only way, like a representative sample, dude, and any other market, dude, is a pound. So if you're out in Cali and you go to some broker, someone hands you a turkey bag as a pound, and that's what you look at. So if you're looking at a room with a bunch of samples, it's bunch of turkey bags with the pounds, so you can see like, is it your A buds, B buds, C buds? Is it all A buds? Is it this? Is it that? Is the machine trimmed? Is it hand trimmed? You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that's yeah. And then people come around here with a sample with like a gram in a jar, and you're like, okay, what is that? This is your $2,000 outdoor, and then you're at the next CCB meeting, be like, nobody wants this market is not viable. You're like, all right, dude, I hear you.
Okay. Can I ask you, Jordan? Because I want to move on to ask you more about that stuff. But I was curious what you do for IPM, and it sounds like you've been growing for quite a while. And I'm curious, like when you have a problem in your grow, how do you address that? And especially, how do you address it within the legal market? Because I know some of the old solutions are no longer
It's
like
preventative
viable.
maintenance, man. I've got a quarantine room for any genetics that come in. I've got a quarantine room to go to a quarantine room. Everything that has to come out has to have 2 negative tests for hops latent or any other viroid. And then also during that time period, I can see if there's any type of bugs or anything. So it's anybody coming in, like I don't bring people in generally to my cultivation to like look at it. Like I don't care. Like you can look at pictures online. I'm more worried about them bringing stuff in. The only time I've ever got shit is when I let people in my garden that shouldn't have been there to begin with. Yeah, so I mean, once you go through your preventative maintenance and then just staying with your weekly Xeritol sprays or something for any type of like pathogen pressure to keep it down. Yeah, I mean, basically essential oils, Xeritol. Preventative though. Preventative is the number one thing, man.
Yeah, and it seems like there are kind of two approaches to IPM, which is like proactive or reactive.
Yeah.
And it seems like you really want to be proactive with that kind of shit, because if you fuck up, you could lose a whole crop, which would cost you again.
Dude, more than that, dude. Once I've had to shut down for russet mites in the past, dude. You know what I mean? And then you shut down for a couple months, dude. With certain stuff, that's a battle you don't want to take on. You know what I mean? Like spider mites at a certain point, like all that stuff. It's just better not to. You know what I mean? And if you've done this for a little bit, you know that it's just better off to go through the extra steps every day to not deal with it. Because if you do deal with it and you've got to shut your facility down, like that, what does that look like for you? You know what I mean? Not that you got to go through that, but like killing stuff off, like spraying 3 times a week every 72 hours. Like, do you really want to put that much time and labor into what you're doing? Identifying the insect, then its life cycle, and then what's going to hit that for, like going through all that stuff. Like you can do it. You know what I mean? We've probably, anybody that's been doing this for a minute has done it, but it's not fun, right?
Yeah. And, you know, from what I've learned from covering this industry for the last 4.5 years, a lot of the work is not super fun. No. People thought the life was kind of glamorous and they're going to get all these really beautiful jobs. But, you know, the weed growers are some of the hardest working motherfuckers I've ever met in my life, to be honest with you.
Glorified indoor cleaning, man. That's what it is, dude. Everybody says they want to be in cannabis, but you get some of the laziest motherfuckers that just want to smoke weed all day. And they're like, all right, dude, like if you don't come out of that room, like with your hands white and like cracked up from bleach, bro, you're not using the right ratios.
Okay, let me slide. Hey guys, I'm with Jordan Keagy from Verdiggity. I see there's a few of you watching. If you guys have any questions for Jordan, you see the banner there. Toss them in. I'd be happy to ask. Let's next. I want to ask you about the grow store, because I saw a little post on your Facebook, and it sounds like you guys opened a little grow store down there. Please tell us about that, if you would, Jordan.
Yeah, so we've got a head shop and a grow store going downstairs. It's where Greener Pastures was before. So she decided to close up. We kind of decided to like commingle the art business with the hydroponic store as well. Mostly, I mean, for the tax purposes, but for the hydroponic store. But either way, just we've got glass accessories. We got some hickory, which is awesome, man. We're pulling in some other people, local people, man. Yeah, man, just one of those little additions to kind of add on. Just not that there's a lot of money, but just kind of like a little bit here, a little bit there, subsidized. You know what I mean? Make everything make sense, you know?
What are you guys going to be selling there?
Well, I mean, the hydroponic store is we're gonna try to cater to a lot of the market over here is a lot of like home growers and stuff, but we're also gonna have wholesale prices. And I think the most local hydroponic stores are there's one in Saratoga, there's one in a small one at over in Brattleboro, and the next good one is over in Greenfield. So yeah, if anybody wants to reach out with any orders, man, we're going to be pretty aggressive with those pricing, just because it's kind of a little add-on for us. It's not going to be our bread and butter, but yeah, definitely reach out.
What is
along with the whole head shop downstairs, because we have all of I literally bought out all of our inventory and she'd been running for I think 12 years
Okay.
and was just kind of done, dude. So
Tell us
yeah.
about that, please, too, if you wouldn't mind, Jordan. I love a good glass shop. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. There's just a ton of glass,
Were
smoking
they,
accessories, dude. Like right before we were logging in, that was the inspector that was here that needed to look downstairs. That's where I jammed out for a minute. I was
I
like,
had a
all right,
question for you. I was like, hey,
we don't
who
need
the,
appointments, just pop in, you know.
so is it someone local that had a glass shop in that same building or?
Yeah. So there was a lady that had been downstairs. So we kind of I made a deal when we came in to not carry glass, and then she'd stop selling weed.
Ah,
So we had a nice little symbiotic relationship for a minute because she kind of was established downstairs with the head shop for I think maybe like 10 or 12 years.
oh,
And
no
then
shit.
we'd send people upstairs and downstairs. So it was like, it kind of all works, you know. Now we have
Hmm.
a little bit more space in the building and shit. So
Uh, can I ask you? This is something I kind of glossed over, but I like to ask everybody, and this seems like kind of a stupid question, but I'm curious how you selected the location for your business, be it the grow or the dispensary or the grow store. Like, because I know some people have had trouble finding a spot to open up in.
oh, absolutely, dude. And so I pulled the trigger on this because I originally she was going to be leaving downstairs anyway, so I thought that was open. And Manchester is a harder area to navigate specifically, and there was 45 days before the moratorium closed off, so I was just looking at pretty much I was looking at 4 different locations and whatever happened to follow through. I just literally was starting the licensing process through all of them and making sure everything was all right. Um, and then this is funny because the building I'm in, I actually worked for when I was like 15, I worked for the summer for my friend's parents. That was like this the former Vermont carpet store. And I came in and it hadn't been touched since I was 15 years old. It was exactly the same. And I'm like, okay, 45 days for the licensing to like close. Great, I'll take it. And we just kind of did the whole build out and yeah, you get it for a good price and everything, especially for downtown Manchester, man. So that kind of we're like right off the highway, right centrally located. So and this is like so I do more of the cultivation. Alex, which is my partner fiance, she basically runs the store and stuff. Where a lot of the managerial stuff at the store, we kind of it's kind of like our family business. That's how we do it.
Mm.
But like she's from Manchester, I'm from Manchester. We went to high school here. Like this is kind of home base. So it's kind of funny, like seeing people that were like, "Hey, dude, you just sell me weed like 20 years ago." Like, do you know that was the first person I ever bought shit from? And I was like, ah, yeah. It's interesting to come to see that stuff come around full circle, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have some friends like that.
Yeah.
It was unfortunate, but yeah, people I used to buy weed from like 25 years ago. It's
Yeah,
like, hey,
exactly, man. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I was stoked to see them in the market. Man, so that's the dispensary. Any issues locating the grow, or did you have that already locked up, or what?
Um, Once again, man, I was just looking at anything and everything regionally. So I was looking at 3 different places, one in Bennington, one in um oh my gosh, one in Sunderland, one in here, and then whatever kind of fell into place. And that's just what I pulled the trigger on. You know what I mean? I just being able to put all your eggs in one basket never seems to work. You know what I mean? And partners don't work in my experience. So it's just like,
Mm.
what can I do right now for myself? You know what I mean? And then trying to keep everything in house as much as possible. You know?
So I want to touch on 2 things, maybe if I could, is the not having partners and then
Yeah.
keeping everything in house. Would you mind expanding on those 2 thoughts a little bit?
Oh man, I think a lot of people, everybody kind of first. I mean, I've had partners in the past, and those relationships never quite had the longevity. Like sometimes they're good and then they don't, and things fall off. And when things get tighter in the market, like you see some of these places now that they've got multiple owners on their licenses, and they're like, okay, what does that look like after taxes? Like, what is your real take home after that? You know what I mean? I don't mind working for myself. You know what I mean? Like that's fine, but like I don't want to be like if we see numbers drop down to where every other state does, it's not going to make sense to have your business anymore.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And split that money 2 ways. It's just not going to. And then
Do
people are
you
complaining about prices now, dude. But like if you can't sell flower and you can't run your business and you're like premium still getting like 22 to 2,500, dude. Like I don't know what to tell you, dude. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, Jordan, do you know a number where like it's not profitable and I know outdoor has less overhead, but you also can sell it for less, but like Is there a number where like annually you would, if you went below that number, you're like, I'd have to shut it down?
So I would shut down. I will shut down the cultivation if it gets down to 900 a pound, 900 to 1,000 a pound, and it's not worth growing it yourself anymore.
So that's your break even line.
Yeah, it's just not worth the time and energy at that point. You know what I mean? And then you can still pull in the money and that's across all the states. You know what I mean? When you actually crush the numbers, what does it cost? What's your overhead? I mean, certain places do. Some of these big farms, dude, they own their shit for like $52 a pound. You know what I mean? But through economies of scale, they can do that. And guess what? I'm like not a multimillionaire, bud. Let alone a billionaire investing, dude. So it's like what does it look like from a small cultivator who's doing this for themselves? You know, but and right now we're great, dude. Our numbers are wonderful, dude. I think the worst thing we could do is throw any variables into an equation that's working right now, like anything. You know what I mean? Like, nope.
That's good to hear, Jordan. And you know, I was going to say this to the end as well, but something you said on the phone really piqued my curiosity, because I like to ask people at the end, where can we find your products and blah, blah, blah. And you were like, you know, honestly, we don't really sell to a lot of other places. And I was wondering if you would explain your rationale behind that, because I thought that was a really interesting point, man.
Well, for the first few years, man, it was just pushing and grinding, dude. And Vermont, like, once again, like I underestimated how small Vermont is. So we do like 32, 35 pounds a month, and like hitting the road and dropping off a half pound here. Maybe the good sales would be like 5-7 pounds or something like that. And then people wouldn't order it as much. So it'd just be one of those, like, it at that point in time, it made sense to do that. But now from the retail point of view, like, I've got to pay to package it. I've got to do product registrations. I've got to pay someone to drive it there. Like, why would I do that? I mean, I'm better off taking my bud, breaking it down, any excess, breaking it down into smalls, and then get the same number. You know what I mean? Why? Because numbers are still good. Why? Like, it wouldn't make. I'm not that I do that. Like, but if there's something old, like, I'll do that before I send it to somewhere else, man. I mean, our number one seller is our product, and we only represent 30% of our shelves. People want our products, man. We were in, I think it was 52 stores that we had sold to, and our stuff was everywhere, man. Do you know what I mean? I mean, at the same time, you rotate from this store to this store. You like break a relationship here, build another one there, prioritize, like, so all that stuff. You know what I mean? Juggling the dynamics.
52 is still about half of the stores in the state.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, if you're in Brattleboro's got 4, and then you can only really sell to one of them, and then if you've got to break a relationship here, then you can go to the other one. So it's like these weird little dynamics, and most of these people are not weed people, dude. They buy off of COAs, or they're fucking just some rich fucking lawyers who fucking decided to do whatever the fuck it is, or somebody who had 6 lights in their garage and don't make time to go do their sales. You know what I mean? Like,
Can I put a couple a couple comments here? We got Alyssa back with the interviews. Hey, thank you for watching, Alyssa. I don't know who this is. Jonathan Schadenfreude. I was just drinking his blood orange seltzers. Do you have seltzers?
No, not me.
He must have been talking about Forbins or something. Sorry, that's like 7 minutes old. But, took a couple minutes to get out of the canopy to say hello. Yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Can I ask you about the application process? Because one thing I like to ask everyone about is how that went for them. Some people hired lawyers to help them, but I'm curious how that went for your business, Jordan.
So I kind of started all that stuff off from the beginning and started doing the process. And then since when our original applications were going through, the CCB didn't really know exactly what they were doing. Like, we got notifications that we could grow our plants, but we weren't licensed. And it was one of those, like, okay, what do I do in this situation? So that's when I had Vermont Cannabis Solutions, and now I still use Subin, man, because I mean, he's been great along the way, dude. I'm like, people can say what they want about whatever his whole business dynamics were, but like, he's been great for me, man. And I mean, cost efficient, knows what he's doing, has the right people involved. He's got the right, I don't know. Absolutely worth it. Every penny with them, you know.
So did you have any issues? I know one thing people have told me a lot about is the product registration, because this is something that only exists in Vermont. I think we're the only state that does this. And when I first started doing interviews, the length of that could be 6 to 8 weeks. How is that process going now?
So it's kind of weird because they keep on moving the goalposts, right? So I mean, the CCB does their vague language on purpose, so it can be left up to the interpretations of these people. This is how like legal stuff comes out, right? Unless they want to be clear and concise in certain things, and usually it's like with a punitive measure towards us. You know what I mean? That's where the clear and concise language comes out. They're asking for more stuff than they were looking for before, but I stopped doing anything registered besides our bulk shop numbers because I just don't feel like giving them that extra thing jumping through the hoop. And it's not like too much of the time, but when you've got 30, 40 products or whatever it is or more, and you have to get a product registration for everyone, they're constantly expiring, get these emails, they don't tell you what it is, so you don't know if it's important. I personally, I mean, I'm a different dynamic because I only sell bulk and I stopped kind of like, I'd like letting it go out to other stores, so I'm not worried about it. But that's probably one of the worst designs that they had for this market was to do that. And I get it, dude. They're trying to generate as much revenue possible, dude. I mean, that's anybody that came in here and thought that they weren't going to do that. Not necessarily that specifically, but they weren't going to try to tap us as hard as they could in the meantime. Yeah. I wish they could do it in a easier way though, you know what I mean, or maybe like once every 5 years. I mean, I think they just shot down the once every 2 years. Did that go
that's
through?
The thing, that you have to keep renewing these like same products that you have, right? And it's kind of redundant, at least.
Oh, absolutely.
From
yeah, but it's not doing. But they're changing the goalposts though. So they'll say, okay, you need this, this, and this, and you submit it for 2 years, and all of a sudden they're asking for extra verifying paperwork, and you're like, I'm sorry, excuse me, like this worked the last 3 times. Why are you asking for a receipt of where I got it from this time? Yeah. Like I sent you the link. I sent you the link to the webpage. Yeah.
And that kind of takes, does that cost you money? At least it takes some of your extra time. And I know, there's just so many regulations. It just seems like a lot to handle, especially if you're a small business with maybe a husband and wife or something, for example,
Yeah. I mean, the computer work and all that stuff is not fun. You know what I mean? But it is what it is, and it's less than anywhere else would be.
Joe.
Yeah. So it's one of those, like, at least we're not in metric, and I'm not putting a tag on every single plant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like when I heard Vermont wasn't doing that, I was like, oh gosh, thank God. Then like opposed to like New York because we had a place over in Lake George, dude, and it was like, and I was driving to Maine twice a week. And I was like looking at entering the New York market, and I was like looked at those proposals, and I was like, nah, dude, I'm all right. I'm all set, man. I'm all set.
You're right.
That's a hard pass, bro. Going back home.
And the metric tracking is a bitch. If you guys haven't seen my interview with Ron Durbin, you can go watch about that. However, okay, well, that's a great explanation, dude. And I know it's tough, especially, Vermont is a small state, and I don't know, this wasn't on my list, but someone mentioned this to me, was like a lot of the growers are like setting up dispensaries to sell their weed and not giving shelf space, was something that people have approached me with. And I was like, yeah, well, if I was a grower, I'd probably set up a dispensary too to sell all my weed. Do you have any thoughts on that kind of dynamic of the market, Jordan?
If I have never said no to any good weed that came in my store.
Yeah.
I say no to a bunch of shit weed, and I'll take stuff and I'll be like, okay, let's compare this to here, and there's a price for everything. You know what I mean? So we can come up with a price, but let's make this make sense. You know what I mean? This is a business thing. You know what I mean? Is anybody like, I hear what people are saying, but I don't think there's any good flower that's losing shelf space. I think there's a lot of people with non-commercially viable stuff that they're trying to overprice. You know what I mean? I see that a lot. I mean, but once again, Vermont is a really small state, and then you look at how many grams they put into the market, and so this is one of the, like, trying to underscore this point. The barriers to entry were super easy in Vermont. There's a lot of people that could have never gotten a license anywhere else with putting as little money into it as possible. That being said, we also have, by design, I know originally the design was what, 2 grams for every gram of estimated demand. that was originally going to enter the market. And I think they said Equilibrium. This is like 5 years ago. They put this stuff out. It was going to be 3 years in. This was like the CCB's original model, something like that.
The market projections. Do you read
yeah,
that?
exactly. When
That.
they like the year before the market opened, dude. You know what I'm talking about? That sheet. There was like a 2-page sheet on that.
We can talk about that in detail after
Yeah.
God. Yeah, I did see that, Jordan. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like so, but where we are now, dude, like we're doing better than their original projections, and we're doing way less of a fail rate. Are you kidding me? The average business fails at what percent? Like 50% within the first 2 to 3 years, and then cannabis is like 60 to 70%. And then you watch the month to month like thing of like, I don't know, man. I'm not trying to be like an asshole either, but like, dude, there's some good growers out here and there's some bad ones, dude. You know what I mean? And not everything's
that's a fair
made.
assessment, my friend. Can I stop you for a second? Hey, yeah. I'm with Jordan Keagy, Verdiggity Organics. Thank you so much for being here with me, Jordan. And I agree with you. And I do think there is sort of an equilibrium that will be found. You know, there are people that grow really good weed that don't know how to market it or sell it, that I think kind of hurt their business. And there are people that really don't grow great weed at all that are really good at business. And I think it's important to sort of find that match of having a nice product and being easy to work with and, you know, networking well, especially in a small state like this.
Absolutely, dude. Because especially here, everything's so spread out, dude. So like, I didn't think I'd be spending 30 hours a week hitting the road, going from store to store, staying up with people, working a phone like it's a burner. You know what I mean? Like constantly just like phone calls. Hey, what's going on? This is coming up, priming people, doing all that stuff. But you got to put it in, man. That's what it takes to sell your stuff. And maybe it's not a big sale here or there. You know what I mean? But I mean, I've reached out to some people that are in this market that look like they've got some fire flower, and they're like, I'm sorry, but all my stuff is taken up. You know what I mean?
Not a
and I get it, dude. That's a great problem to have for you. You know what I mean?
Well, and I did, you know, since you mentioned it, one of the last questions here down on my list was give people like an idea of the time commitment that you put into this. Because, you know, I've met growers and I've met store owners and I've met manufacturers, but you're like growing and you're running a store. And I assume you have a very small team there. You're doing deliveries. It's a bitch to like drive all around. I don't know if you're doing.
So, dude, it was the best thing that I did was switching over and not selling to the other stores, dude, because it takes all that time to drive around and sell to other stores versus to drive a mile from my cultivation to here.
Well, what about labs? The lab is still like a cruise, huh?
Yeah, but they do drops in Bennington here, and I still have a driver that you know what I mean. Cool. So you can drop in Bennington, you can drop in Rutland, they'll pick it up. Which I mean, dude, that's lab fees, or that's a different conversation.
Do you want to have it real quick? I'm getting towards the end of my list, but that is
an amount of money for these lab funds that we test for shit that you don't need. You know what I mean? I don't know. Whatever, dude. It'd be nice if we saw a little bit more competition in that side.
And I do agree with you there. And both the labs are in like the same spot if you're driving from
like a mile away from each other, you know.
Yeah, that's a long drive. Yeah. Or who's collecting? Would you mind telling us if you know who's collecting drops to deliver to the labs?
So was it what's that wholesaler that picks up? So they do drops in Cloud9, they do a Mountain Girl, they were doing in Juniper Lane, and I think they switched over to somewhere else right now. But I think Forbins was picking up in Mountain Girl. Okay. And then I forget what wholesaler was doing. Who was the wholesaler that was doing that?
What do we got?
Either way, there's just the drop sites, dude.
Okay.
Yeah. There's fuck Northern Craft, but
I won't hold your I won't hold your feet to the fire on that one because I don't know the answer either. But it does seem like a long drive for people in Southern Vermont to go up to those labs. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I want to ask you too about, and these are dumb questions, but like banking, insurance, and bookkeeping. I thought was cool because you were like, "Fuck that! I just kind of do that myself."
Well, I went to business school originally, so I didn't have a little bit of managerial accounting stuff, and then I bring that to my accountant after I do all that. I mean, these people want so much money, dude. If you're running something vertically integrated, they want $2,000 a month for that, man. And then you get $1,000 bank fee on top of that, and you're like, okay, what does it look like if you don't know the basic business stuff to get in? You know, I mean, it's not fun. You know, I mean, I hated it when I was doing it, but I'm like, oh wow, main takeaway was like, thank God I did that stuff, because once again, 2000 extra dollars a month, man. You know what I mean? That's something. And once you can do the business aspects yourself, once you can do your marketing yourself, you follow up with customers yourself, you do your own packaging in house, you grow your own flower in house. You know what I mean? You can do your own accounting. You know what I mean? You can't do much about the banking stuff, but you can work them for rates, dude. You know, and I pay nothing right now for my accounting. Why? Because I work the fuck out of them for rates.
Excellent. And, you know, it does seem like in some states, these types of steps are significantly more complicated, but it does seem like of all the 25 states I've looked at, Vermont has made this relatively painless compared to other states if you know how to read and just, you know, do a little bit of research on
Absolutely.
them.
It could
Yeah.
be a lot. It could be, well, I mean, you've got to, it's not like you can just like jump into that stuff without having a background in it. So like I had I had kind of like an importing business that I had for 7 years before. So I kind of already did my books before that. You know what I mean? I did that. It was CBD and like all whatever, dude. You know what I mean? That different subject. But like if you've been in the business world a little bit with that stuff, basically just importing a ton of like cartridges. You know? Anyways, different
Word
story.
up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's certain stuff that could definitely save you money here and there you know.
Well, let me ask you, because, and here, I'm going to shamelessly slap your logo up one more time. Jordan Keagy, guys, Verdiggity Organics, Manchester, Vermont. You got the grow, you got the dispensary, got the grow store coming. And this is one of the open-ended questions I threw at you on the phone. And we've touched on some of this stuff, but I want to know, Jordan, if you were in charge of this whole shit and you could recreate the entire industry by yourself and write all of the rules, what are some things that you would do differently than what's happening right now? Or what would you do? You think there's any good ideas happening? Would you throw some of this shit away? Would you change some? I'm curious what you would do to help small business owners like yourself be more profitable.
That's a hard one too, because ideologically I would say just having, I mean, there's no such thing as a free market, you know what I mean? But if we just ran like any other business and it wasn't regulated to this extent, you know what I mean? I think that would probably be like, if in my lens to develop it, that would probably be the best way to do it. You know, that's never going to happen or never was going to happen. Um, yeah, but I think, yeah, if it was completely legalized, I think that'd probably be the best thing we could have for the planet at this point.
How do you feel about you mentioned something about this earlier, but about like direct to consumer sales? How do you feel about ideas like that or delivery or something like that?
I think when we've got such a fabricated market, like this is not a free market. It's been very structured, very designed. And the people that are complaining right now don't, as what I see is not viable cannabis. When you give them a direct to consumer aspect, they're just going to drop their prices. So if you've got a farm that's down the road that can't sell their stuff through any other dispensaries, and then all of a sudden they say, hey, we're doing a $50 race because then we need to keep our lights on. Now I have to compete with them right down the road. I don't think that's good for anybody. I don't think there's anybody in any other state that would not be begging to be in our situation here right now. I don't think anybody in cannabis in any other state that's been legal for a few years would be like, hey man, that sounds like a good gig you guys have over there.
I do agree with that. But like, let's say hypothetically, let's say you were my next door neighbor, right? Let's say you lived 5 minutes down the road and I could roll up to your house and buy an eighth for $40 when I was out of weed. Is that something that you would be on board with?
Dude, we're not controlled enough we're not controlled enough that they can't do that if they want to.
Yeah. Well, it would be nice because some of you guys got phenomenal herbs, and it'd be like, you know, if I could just. Sometimes I'm driving by your house, I'm like, yo, maybe I could stop and grab something.
We do all of our own inputs, man. You know, I mean, it's all off of percentages. If you really need to do that, just do it. That's not what I think. I mean, I'm not in a position where I need to do that. You know what I mean? But like, that's where you're at, dude. I mean, look at all the other legal markets, dude. All that legal weed is on the black market, dude. You know what I mean? That's what happens when numbers crash and we're talking about, yeah, I mean, the majority of stuff is coming out of Cali from these giant farms all over the place and they're getting packed
True.
in. You know what I mean? That are the Asian packs with literally the Asian writing, and you'll get like unit 205 on the top. You know what I mean? So like it's the legal farms that are pushing it out. And
Yeah.
if we don't keep a viable market and we don't keep the numbers in place and the numbers drop, that's what's going to happen. And you know what I mean? And if you don't think that the dude saying no,
Mm.
you think these people are really saying no to their neighbor if they really want to sell their neighbor an eighth? That's not
Mhm.
happening. You know what I mean? It's not like they're like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. That at eighth is called for. Like, come on. Like just for like a reasonable person.
So let me ask you this too, Jordan, and I'm gonna just this one more shameless thought. Craft cannabis. I see a lot of people using that phrase, craft. What does that word mean to you in terms of the weed industry?
So I 100% agree with you. You know, it's almost been overused. I wouldn't have put that in there if I saw everybody else doing this stuff. But like from everything we
Mm.
do, from like choosing our genetics to like going through this, like everything we do in house. You know what I mean? We care about the plant. We're using the organic inputs. We're using microbes to break everything down. We're hand trimming everything. We're like curating the best stuff, and everything is hands on with us. You know what I mean? We're not at day 56 and we're pulling and doing this and throwing it through a trimmer. And like, so we're actually going through this. Like when Alex and I were like at the beginning of this thing, I had one of my other friends, and we're like in there doing it ourselves in the soil, brewing our teas, making it more dominant, like all the stuff that it takes to make a little bit of a superior plant to that. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
I mean you can run everything on like crazy auto like crazy controls and shit and still come out with a decent product. You know what I mean? But the difference between like growing the right stuffs, caring about the plant as it's growing, taking care of it, you know what I mean? And then like that final product, all those little steps show in the final product.
Uh-huh.
Once you actually like care about what's going into the and so for me, dude, like my journey to like the organics, dude, I was away on one of those adventures I told you about before on a federal case, dude. And I literally became allergic to egg, soy, gluten, fish, and poultry overnight, dude. And it was like just from eating that such poor quality stuff, dude. You know what I mean? Not by choice, just it's just like my body snapped into this. Actually, after a TB shot, dude. So my whole arm broke out in fucking
Oh,
hives. And
shit.
then within 5 days, I developed all these allergies, dude. So then it was like, what can I do to like maintain myself? You know what I mean? The best, like I try to eat organic food the best, most I can. You know, you can't do that stuff all the time. You know what I mean? Do I same thing I was talking about before about like, about the flower, dude. Like I care about what I put in my body. And if you don't care about it, I'm not really interested in smoking your stuff. You know what I mean? And I just want that to go
Right.
through from the product from the beginning to the end. So the way they take care of the plant from the beginning to the end through the process is the final thing that I want to put in my body. And that's what I put out. You know what I mean? That's why it's like the name of like Verdiggity Organics. That was a kind of, I don't know if you remember this from back in the day, dude, the name. It was like way back in the day, but like the strawberry cough and then like the jerry berry. And I'd like go down south, people like, oh, you Vermont's got that diggity weed. So it was Vermont Diggity Danks. That
Oh.
was like the jokes. It was like Ver Diggity. I'd like be bringing packs down to like Maryland fucking a long time ago. It was like one of those, like, that's when those, like, when all the Vermont shit was on before Cali even really got on like that. You know what I mean? So I don't know, dude. I kind of went on a tangent
I
with
love
that,
that
but
strawberry coffee. That's just
yeah, man,
delicious.
the
Mhm.
actual, I mean, that's just not around anymore. People say they've got strawberry cough, but it's not like that. You know what I
We used
mean?
to get that shit in the mail from a
Yeah.
dispensary in California when we were in college. I had a rich friend in there who was that? Mhm. The
Yeah.
snozberries taste like snozberries.
Yeah.
Um, Jordan, so here's what I want to do. Let's see if I can bring us both back up. Shameless Lab, Jordan Keagy, Verdiggity Organics. Also, I do want to just say personally, thank you for supporting the show, dude. And
Absolutely,
thank you
brother.
for supporting my homies at the Green Door Studio. I really appreciate that, dude. And it's really been nice to, connect some of the people in industries I love. And thank you for that. But before we leave, I want to leave you a minute. If you have anything to say that we missed, any shameless plugs or shout outs, now's the time. Thank you so much for being here, Jordan. I'm going to wrap this up, but the last minute is for you, my friend. So please take it away and then we'll wrap it up.
no shameless plugs, man, but I really appreciate all the work that you've been doing over the years. So people that have been paying attention, dude, you've actually been digging into real shit, and people that actually care about the industry. Um, it means something, you know, and because a lot of other places, like it's just like propping these people up and giving them a pat on the back for their bullshit. You know what I mean? And the forces that are in the state, it's I don't know, just like everything. It's everything's fucking corrupt, dude. You know what I mean? So to actually have someone that's digging into those means a lot, dude. And people should respect that, dude. And that's why you see that as well, man. You're respected as well.
Oh, wait. Hold on. I was fucking up my camera angle. Thank you, dude. I appreciate that, dude. That's very kind of you to say. And if you have nothing else, I'm going to sign it off here.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much, man. Thank you for having me, bro.
Yo, stick around for 1 minute if you would, please, guys. That's Jordan Keagy, Verdiggity Organics, Manchester, Vermont. I'm your host, Caleb Teskey. Remember, the devil's in the details, and the details are in the fine print.